Hey guys, welcome back to 1776 or Bust. So on the table you see two Glocks. You see the Gen 3 and the Gen 4. Now obviously neither one of these are your typical standard Glocks from the factory. This one obviously is the Vickers Glock, and this one has been jazzed up a little bit with the obvious battle-worn flag finish on here. I've also been doing a couple of things with here. I put this mag release on, which is aluminum, and I also, pretty cool, right? We the People, my favorite. Again, I also put the little grip plug in there as well. And you can see that it says, "Don't tread on me." Well, maybe you can see. I don't really know if you can see that or not, but it's pretty cool. Either way, neither one of these Glocks are your standard Glocks. So for me, I started thinking about what would be the reason why I would want to get rid of both of these or add another one in the Gen 5 model. Now, for some people, the Gen 5 seems to be the go-to Glock at this particular moment. However, I would argue that you really probably don't need a Gen 5. And here's why. First off, aside from these finger grooves and aside from changing some internal structures, or I shouldn't say structures, but components, what you're going to find is that there's really no significant difference between the Gen 3, the Gen 4, and the Gen 5. Again, the Gen 5 did away with the finger grooves, which a lot of people are always complaining about. And for me personally, I don't even know if it's a lot of people. I think there are some people who own Glocks who wish they would have gotten rid of these. But those are the people who actually go and customize them and by grinding them down and making this more smooth in regards to the way they want it. For me, I've never had any issues with the finger grooves. Okay, this is a Gen 3. The undercut is, in my opinion, yeah, it's okay. It's not bad. Could it be a little bit more? Maybe, but I don't think it's horrible. In regards to the Gen 4, again, very similar, no issues there. Again, the undercut is roughly the same, and you'll notice that my fingers fit rather well on those finger grooves. So for me, it never really posed a problem. Again, in regards to all the other structures, I know that the Gen 5 Glocks have now been giving you options for steel sights, night sights, these types of things. But again, for me personally, I would prefer to just go out and buy my own. Again, you can find some great sights for Glocks. This, for example, came with it with a fiber optic front and a blacked out rear, and that really doesn't ever really cost much money to actually do anything with that if you want to go with a set of Ameriglows or something like that. Same thing with the Vickers. You'll notice that you have your blacked out rear, but you also have that bright front, and that is a True Glow tritium insert in there with the green paint, I guess you could say, and it does glow in the dark. So I mean, the sights are excellent here because you got a lot of different options you could use on these guns. In regards to some of the other features, for basically a Gen 3 and a Gen 4, there are some slight variances. You can see that the mag release here is a little bit shorter, a little bit narrower compared to this one here. Again, you can see that the slide release or slide lock, whatever you want to say, is relatively in the same position. No difference there. You have your rear serrations, but that's it. Now, if you look at the Gen 5 and you compare the Gen 3 and the Gen 4 to that one, you're not going to see a tremendous amount of difference on the exterior of the handguns. Now, I will be honest with you. I've never held a Gen 5. I've never shot a Gen 5. So for me, I don't even know what it feels like. So I'm just going by what I'm seeing. And for me right now, I can't really honestly say I'm going to get a Gen 5 because I just don't think there's enough to a Gen 5 for me to want to move away from a Gen 3 or a Gen 4. Now, ultimately, which one do I prefer? My preference is always going to be the Gen 4s. In my opinion, I think Glock got it right with this handgun just because they add the additional back straps if you choose to use those. Now, the reason why I don't have this is because I put that grip plug in there and it won't fit with the back strap. So I actually have to adjust my grip to bring it down a little bit, or I'm going to get bit a little bit on the hand. Now, other than that, do I think that's a bonus? I do, because in the process of them adding that feature with the back strap, it actually thinned down the grip a little bit. So it's not as, let's say, thick as the Vickers Glock. Now, is it a significant difference? Not really, guys. I would say that this is obviously thicker than the Gen 4, but not by a whole heck of a lot. Now, of course, if you fast forward to the Gen 5s, the Gen 5 kept basically everything the same of a Gen 4, except they changed the barrel. They also changed some of the configurations on the inside. So instead of it being 3 pins, it's a 2-pin. Other than that, guys, there's not a heck of a lot of difference. Now, for me, do I really need a Gen 5? The answer to that question is absolutely not, and here's why. First off, you're getting everything you need in this handgun right here. Yes, the trigger isn't that great, but from what I've been seeing, the Gen 5 trigger isn't that great either. So the likelihood of somebody buying a Gen 5 and then wanting to change a trigger out is probably going to be higher than, let's say, a P10 or a PPQ or one of those other handguns. In regards to this one, if I want to change out the trigger, I'm going to, and I probably will in this one. Why? Because I can, and because there's an abundance of aftermarket pieces for this handgun. For the Gen 5, it doesn't have that just yet. Again, they have that, I forget what they call it, but I think it's called like the marksman barrel or the accuracy barrel or something in there. And I mean, is that really going to add to the accuracy of your handgun? Maybe, maybe not. I don't really have a problem shooting either one of these Glocks. Both shoot very well for me. So in regards to that, to me, that's not really something that's going to attract me to buying the Glock. Now, of course, some people might say, but what about the finger grooves? Again, I've already said the finger grooves for me never caused a problem for me and probably never will. Again, for those people out there who don't like them, they could always grind them down if they choose to and make the grip smooth. One of the other things that I found kind of interesting is in their, I guess you could say, in their journey to try to make this more user-friendly by trying to strip the mag out, they actually put a little bit of a bevel in here and kind of cut this area out underneath the grip. Now, again, I've never felt the Gen 5, but I will tell you that my hand, which I consider about an average large hand, you'll notice that my pinky doesn't have much room here. So one of the things that I can only imagine, and what I've been seeing on some of the other videos, is that when this is cut out a little bit more, I can imagine that your pinky probably won't fit very well on there. And so for me, that was definitely one of the things I was looking at, because it does make a little bit of a bulge down here. And unfortunately, there's a gap. And I could see myself basically ramming the mag in and catching my pinky on there. Again, I don't know if that's going to be the case because I haven't shot one or held one, but that's what I'm figuring just based on the look of it. Overall, Gen 3 Glocks are excellent Glocks. They're still out there. They're still available. And I would tell you that they're very affordable at this point. In regards to the Gen 4, Gen 4s are out there as well, and there's a lot of them. One of the things that I'd be looking for if I was actually going to buy a brand new Glock and it was a Gen 5 or a new generation from the Gen 4 is honestly, I think where Glock could have gone with this is maybe come back with the RTF grip and then kept it very much the same here. You know, kept the back straps here, maybe changed that a little bit by instead of having it, you know, pop on there, maybe a piece comes out and a piece goes in. And of course, maybe adding those front serrations. Now, the front serrations, for me personally, again, are not going to be necessarily functional. They're more for aesthetic purposes because I do like the way they look on those Gen 4s that have the front serrations. However, for me, the Gen 5 just doesn't make sense at this point. I think they sort of missed the boat on this one. Now, again, you can agree, you can disagree. I know there's a lot of Glock fans out there, and I'll be honest with you guys, I'm a Glock fan as well. But for me, I just can't spend the extra money to go for a Gen 5 when I have a great Gen 4 and a great Gen 3. So let me hear what you guys have to say. Tell me what you think. You know, I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking about this new Gen 5 and if you think it's going to be worth the money. And let's see if you have one. And if so, tell me what you think is better about it, or tell me if you've been a little bit disappointed by it. So I hope you guys have a great night. Hopefully you're staying safe out there. And as always, everyone, freedom is never free.